Hello and happy Friday, everyone. We are back. We're closing in on the end of at least this manifestation of From Belly to Baby.
Aww.
We were just saying, Dr. Camaryn Chrisman Robbins
I'm
was
getting
here.
a little misty.
Are
So
you?
We
See, I'm just getting
beginning.
terrified. Because we were together at the beginning. It was 13 weeks into my pregnancy that we started this. And I am, as of this week, 36 and change. So closing on 37. I have to say 36 and change because if I don't, then I tell myself I'm 37 and I only have 3 weeks left to go, and that's a lie. So
that's the placenta talking.
Yes, exactly. Instead of the cocktails doing the talking, the placenta's doing the talking now. But today we are talking about something that is very important and something we referenced in the very first episode, which is breastfeeding. So we've got Dr. Camaryn Chrisman Robbins, GYN with Washington University Physicians and Barnes Jewish Hospital and the Women and Infant Center, and Michelle Bowman, who is a certified lactation consultant. Am I saying that correctly?
I'm an international board certified lactation consultant.
So she can do this in France.
I could.
That's super exciting. Fabulous. Well, like I said, I am 36 weeks. If you watching at home are so inclined, please tell us how far along you are and what questions are plaguing your brain right now, because I know I've got loads of them, and if I've got several, you've got more. And there is no such thing as a dumb question, because there are some things I have considered not asking, and I am so grateful that people chime in and ask, because if it's occurred to you, it's occurred to a lot of other people. So,
absolutely.
And I can pretty much guarantee that you ladies have seen and heard it all, correct?
I think absolutely. I have, but then another week comes,
right,
and I hear something I've never heard before. So I'm never bored at my job.
Oh, that's fabulous.
Yeah.
Can I also point out the irony of IUDs all over your mug?
It's great.
Well, you know what? An important reminder if you don't want to be in the position we're in right now. So, but if you are so excited to be here, we will start with the question of, I have to tell you, I was really surprised in my very first doctor's visit that my physician asked if I was interested in breastfeeding. So when do you start that conversation with your patients?
First trimester.
Yeah.
So we have pretty good social science data, meaning we don't get data because we put cells and chemicals in a beaker in a lab and have a result of an experiment, but just talking to people, right? So I love that kind of data and research. Asking people how they feel, asking tens of thousands of people how they feel, and you can actually start to get some good idea of people's belief systems and intentions. So we actually know that if you ask about breastfeeding and you support breastfeeding from the very beginning of when people establish prenatal care, they're more likely at the end of pregnancy to self-identify as planning to breastfeed.
Interesting. So there's the actual science behind this.
Yes.
I got a book recommendation at my first appointment. And did I start reading it then? No. I started it last week when the panic began to set in. But it was so funny because a lot of the stuff you were saying right before we got started are the things that I was just reading about. But we'll save those for just a couple minutes from now. So you start talking about it then, and then full circle is when you come into the picture, Michelle. So toward the end or at the end?
Yeah, toward the end. We actually do have, and most hospitals also do have a breastfeeding class that women can take at any point during their pregnancy, but most people choose to do it in their third trimester or the end of their second trimester. And so oftentimes that's, other than talking about it with their physicians, is the first time that they've really gotten any good information about breastfeeding. So we do recommend doing that. But then we have people who are like, no, I got this, it's fine. And just are like, I'm gonna do it. And so then the first, really good coaching they get is me after the baby's born. So, we have run the gamut from people who are over-prepared to people who are maybe not so much over-prepared.
And Michelle works on our inpatient postpartum unit. So there are IBCLCs, and that's the acronym for the International Board Certified Lactation Consultant.
It's a lot of
So as a patient, though, you meet people who are in different roles of support. You see RN, you see LPN, you see LC, but IBCLC is the international massive governing body for strategies and guidelines. But Michelle's in the hospital. There are IBCLCs who work in the community.
There are people outside the hospital. They work for WIC. They work for themselves. They work all over the place. So there's lots of breastfeeding support all over. But generally, you're getting it through your hospital. Is the first place you get it generally.
All right. And so can we just back up a little bit? What is a lactation consultant? What is your job?
So my job is to help you learn how to breastfeed your baby and how that's going to work in your life.
And for something that this was what we said in the description, for something so natural, it seems like a whole lot of letters after your name to earn in order to be a specialist in this arena.
I say all the time that my job is stupid, and I don't think it should exist, but it has to exist because it's not natural. It seems like it should be natural, and it is natural, but it's not in this modern world a natural thing. We've lost so much knowledge about how to, naturally feed our babies because of the way that our society is. And so I have this dumb job that I love and would cry if I didn't have it. But if it didn't exist, I would be thrilled because I want everyone to just be able to naturally be able to do this. But right now, that's not a possibility. You don't necessarily have family members to go to. A lot of my moms are first generation breastfeeders. Their parents didn't breastfeed, their grandparents didn't breastfeed. The last people to breastfeed were in the 1800s sometime, in their families. So it's important to have someone that has this knowledge and this understanding to come to you. And frankly, I think my job half the time is just being a cheerleader and a coach and just kind of being like, no, you're doing a great job. This is exactly how it's supposed to go. I mean, I have so many moms that worry and worry and worry that, this baby's not eating enough, they're not getting enough food, and all of those things. And, I come in and I look at the chart and go, oh, you're fine, everything's fine. I don't know what your problem is. Everything's
that's always
great.
Nice to hear. I don't know what your problem is. It's a great line to hear.
But it's because,
It's
what people expect is not.
Google.
Yeah.
Shoots in your brain.
Oh, that's true.
In your brain,
That's true. Just stay off the internet.
It was like 4 minutes before we had the stay off the Google, stay
that
off the
might
internet
be,
comment.
That
That's
might
the
be
record. That's the record.
Is it really?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
so.
Google
Just
has
call
it.
me.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
don't go online. Just call me.
Yep. So the first interaction with breastfeeding that a baby has, a lot of times it sounds like, at least from, I've just gone through all the classes myself and all of that stuff, is right away.
Immediate.
So when you take the baby out,
Yep. So I first ask, and this is true for breastfeeding and formula feeding moms. So everybody benefits from that immediate skin to skin, chest to chest that we've talked about on some other episodes. But every mom I ask beforehand, not as the baby's emerging, but would you like baby on your chest?
you're going to get some interesting answers.
If baby's healthy and vigorous appearing and you're feeling well. And whether moms are formula feeding or breastfeeding, they then say yes. If not, baby can go to the warmer and be dried and stimulated by the pediatricians and the nurses that are in the room. But especially for breastfeeding moms, that immediate skin to skin, also because of good scientific studies that have been validated and validated again, is that immediate skin to skin contact is a major hormonal switch for mom to start to transition through a really complicated hormone process, endocrine process of producing breast milk.
And so the baby goes right to the chest, and they start nursing right away from what
They can.
Okay.
Most babies, the vast majority of babies will have their first feeding within the first hour of life. It doesn't always happen the second they get to your chest. Sometimes it takes them a little bit to figure
As I
it out.
put them on mom's chest, they find the nipple and they're like, rah!
Sometimes.
I was going to say, well, without getting too graphic, it is, but that is, in the book, it was talking about how that is why everything grows when you're pregnant, so that the baby can
And the
see.
areola being dark, it's a visual cue.
Yeah, it's like
for
a
the
bullseye.
baby. Yeah.
And I don't know if you can see on my little fake boob here, but there's these little spots here. Those are you'll actually see those on your breast, and you'll see them develop through pregnancy. And those produce, a hormone, or they produce an actual substance that smells just like amniotic fluid. So it's another thing that draws the baby to the breast. I know, it's weird.
It's true.
It's
They're called Montgomery glands.
Crazy town.
And mammals that have fur do not have them because they trap enough scent naturally from their skin. Their babies don't need that extra smell, but our hairless humans, they need a scent cue for babies. So we're the only mammalian primates that have Montgomery glands.
Well, there's the fun fact.
Boob science. It's my favorite.
See if that comes up in the St. Louis trivia night. That's really interesting.
Yeah. I
So-
could do this all day.
Okay, well,
all
we
day
might
long.
just
You're
go
gonna have to
for
keep
hours.
a timer on us.
Somebody's gonna have to bring us some popcorn. All right, so we've baby has gotten breast. When do you walk into the room?
So I usually do not see the people until they've come. For us, our labor and delivery is separate from our postpartum unit. I tend to see them after they come up. There's so much happening in labor and delivery. The last thing that you guys want as you're trying to bond is another person to walk in and go, let's talk all about breastfeeding. So I usually, the nurses down there, the labor and delivery nurses, are all very well trained to help with that first hour of breastfeeding and getting babies latched on. Occasionally I'll get a call if somebody's got a tough situation and I might come down, but generally I'll see you after you're settled into the room upstairs.
And props to labor and delivery nurses. Somebody can be a wonderful lactation coach and consultant without having LC or IBCLC next to them.
Absolutely.
So if you're delivering somewhere, whether it's here or another hospital, but here, did you see that? Your nurse postpartum is a phenomenon. Don't be worried if she doesn't have an official title, because part of delivery nurses training is coaching moms through that initial
And they've
breast latch.
almost all of them seen this more times than you could possibly have gone through it.
And
so.
we, being a baby-friendly hospital at Barnes-Jewish, all of our nurses are trained with 20 hours of online education plus 5 hours of direct with me education so that they can feel comfortable with helping their mothers.
All right, and we'll talk about that first visit in 1 second, but just going back to the point earlier about baby going directly skin to skin and maybe having that first feeding. If baby doesn't have that first feeding in the first hour, is it something to worry about, or is it just...
It's a great question. No.
It doesn't always
There's
work?
a certain percentage of babies that absolutely will refuse to feed in that first hour. And the nice thing...
Just right, they want to go back in.
They're
Yeah,
tired.
basically.
It's a journey.
In that whole first 24 hours, I'm only looking for out of 8 to 12 attempts at the breast, only one needs to go well, and it doesn't have to be the first one.
Okay, gotcha. So your then first visit is a few hours, maybe a day later, depending on...
Usually it's within a few hours.
Okay.
Occasionally, it might be close to 18 if you deliver late in the evening. But we do sometimes have evening shift people too, so it just kind of depends. And if you get up to the floor and you need help right away, then of course the nurses upstairs are going to call and we're going to get in to see you immediately. If you have a complicated situation, then we'll see people quickly.
And what does your first visit entail?
So my first visit entails generally explaining to mothers that I do not expect these babies to eat every time they go to the breast, and that they're going to be really bad at it at first, and it's okay. And that as long as I get one wet, one poopy diaper, and one good feeding in the first 24 hours, then you are off the hook. Everything is fine. Keep your baby skin to skin, do some hand expression if the baby's not latching, which I can certainly talk more about if you'd like. But just keep baby close, offer, the breast as soon as the baby looks like they might be in any way interested, and, just keep trying. And really in the first 24 hours, I'm more worried about moms getting stimulation than I am about babies getting food, because babies, the vast majority of our babies that are born term and healthy, they come out with, lots of extra brown fat to get them through a couple days of not eating very well. They're not meant to eat very well. They're learning.
We continue to survive as a species, right?
It's a good time for the baby.
Babies are born and they can withstand this transition.
Can we talk about the bead? So, can you even see it? I don't know. Let's see. We'll put it right there so you see the purple against my hand. So it's a teeny tiny bead, probably not even an inch in diameter. And what is this?
Size of a newborn baby's stomach.
So that's as much as you have to fill. And you can do that with an eyedropper.
Yeah.
So both breasts in the first day or two of life just need to keep a baby happy with a stomach that small. I mean, I've heard in prenatal visits, and that's why it's so wonderful to get these conversations going in a prenatal visit, because I can hear somebody say at 8 weeks, I say, are you interested in breastfeeding? No, my breasts are too small. Or,
wait until 9 months.
or no, my breasts are too large. I've heard that. Or my breasts are, or that's, there's all sorts of sort of misconceptions that if you get to know someone over the course of their pregnancy, you can really address those. But one is, my breasts are too small or too large, I won't make enough. That's I hear that all the time. And I always bring out my bead and I say, you can make enough. And it's fascinating how people are shocked when they see this.
Yeah. And I don't think people understand that breast size has absolutely nothing to do with the amount of milk that you'll make.
Exactly.
You can have very large breasts and possibly have issues making milk for some reason. Or you can have almost non-existent breasts and make a ton of milk. It's really about, because what's in there, it's not all milk making tissue. There's also fat cells and other things. So you don't know what's in there because we can't see. You know, there's not an x-ray we can do to say, oh, we've got this much. So we just have to see, and we know that the best way to get as much milk as possible is to keep that baby on your chest and at the breast as much as possible in the first few weeks.
And then the pump, does that have any role in the first few days?
Not usually.
Okay.
If we have a healthy term newborn, I don't want you to be pumping unless there's a reason for it. For the most part, I tell you not to even touch a pump for 2 weeks at the very least, if not longer.
And I've heard the same, do you get the same advice about pacifiers?
Yes. No
And
pacifiers.
why is that?
Well, a couple of reasons. Number one, when a baby gets a pacifier, it does change the way that they suck. I have moms that have given a pacifier and then, breastfeeding that hadn't hurt before now hurts because the baby's not sucking the same way.
Does it hurt?
Should not hurt, hopefully.
Oh, well,
that's the hope. But sometimes adding that pacifier does change. It narrows down that baby's latch so that they only want to get just the nipple instead of getting the whole, areola in.
There's some good YouTube videos
Yeah.
of actual sort of, animations of babies, how they use their cheeks and their jaw, and how they suck a breast versus
Kind of
how
like
they
this.
suck a bottle or a pacifier. It's
Unfortunately, it's
different
not a
muscles.
video, but
It's different muscles,
you can
though.
kind of see there how the baby should be kind of attaching. See how wide that.
Which
baby's
is so
mouth
interesting
is.
because I was reading about this a couple of days ago that it isn't you're looking for a pretty wide target and that kid has to have its mouth open wide. To get
And
everything.
sometimes in the first day they don't like to do that. They just like to get a very shallow latch, but that's part of the learning process. So if you do have a little tenderness, it's not unheard of, and doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. It just means we've got more work to do.
And all of these creams and lotions that they make, are those just for fun or do they actually serve a purpose?
They do. I mean, I think some people definitely find that it's helpful. Other people don't find that it's as helpful. I think that's a very personal thing. We do have lanolin. We have hydrogel pads on the floor that we can give you if you need them. Best way to do it is to just make sure we're getting that baby on as deep as possible. If we can get a good latch, you're not going to have as much discomfort.
Interesting. Well, that's really reassuring. And then so mom's in the hospital, you're with everybody for those first 48 hours. What, first of all, is your advice to partners?
My advice to partners tends to be that their job is to take care of mom while mom takes care of baby. And, many of our partners are fantastic. And once you tell them what to do, they're on it. And I like to tell them that during the night they're very important because babies don't like to sleep at night. I know that's not something you want to hear.
No, I can tell when I wake up in the middle of the night. I can tell the kids doing body slams.
You're probably
against
already
them.
noticing
Yeah.
it, yes. Babies, even in utero, are on a nocturnal schedule. They stay that way for a while after they're born. So nighttime is very important for partners because there's going to be times when you're exhausted and you need to hand this baby that's been breastfeeding for the last hour off. They need to also have some skills to kind of get that baby happy with them, and skin to skin is a great way. Walking around with them, rocking them, shushing them, all of those things are helpful. Infant massage, I'm a big fan of infant massage for cranky babies. YouTube. Look up the infant
YouTube
massage.
can teach you how to do It's incredible. It taught me how to place a light fixture the other day. Not sure I did it correctly, it's not working yet. But anyway,
well.
I digress. But the once you've gone home and you've done all of the YouTube videos and that kind of thing, when do you see patients
Wait, let's talk about when milk comes in.
Oh, sure.
yeah.
So the transition from colostrum to milk production is a little tricky. So I do want to take an opportunity to speak to that because there's all sorts of factors in terms of the physiology of a new mom. It's how many days she's been in the hospital getting IV fluids. It's whether or not she had a C-section, probably mostly because of how much IV fluid we give for the C-section. Is she a diabetic? Is she a hypertensive? Is she obese? Does she have thyroid issues? There's this huge picture. We used to say milk comes in.
We used to say between 2 and 5 days, and
Yeah.
we still kind of do, but we also
tricky,
take
though.
into context what's going on with that mother and that baby.
So it could be day 5, right?
Could be.
And that doesn't mean you're failing at lactation.
Nope.
And it could mean that your pediatrician weighs the baby and says, we need to do a little supplementation and still coach you through nursing. But I think there's a lot of people think it's day 3, I have no milk, I'm a lactation failure, and they stop. But I think just the way obstetrics is practiced and sort of the health of our society and sort of the averages are changing in women in our society who are having babies. Women are a little older, they may have more comorbidities or other illnesses in their lives, because we can get people through pregnancy very healthy that maybe 30 years ago wouldn't have been able to be pregnant. So I think we have to almost anticipate it not being day 2 or 3 for a first time mom that the milk comes in, instead of people already feeling exhausted and hormonal and saying, well, I'm a lactation failure, so I'm going to stop.
And are you supposed to nurse on demand for those first couple of days, even until?
I recommend nursing on demand until you stop nursing.
Oh, really?
Personally, yes. That's going to keep you a good supply.
Okay then. Well then.
But the nice thing
I'll
is
make
that
note of that,
babies are going to not demand as much as time goes on.
And so after your milk comes in, will they probably be going longer generally between feedings?
They do tend to go a little bit longer.
So you go home typically every 2 hours nursing.
Okay.
Approximately. Yeah.
Ish.
And then that evolves
All of this advice has ish at the
Ish.
end.
Yes.
It's which is miserable.
The most common answer to any question that is given to me is always, well, that depends.
Yes.
Yeah.
That
And it does space out.
It does.
And so then you see a patient again, it's 6 weeks after?
2 to 6 weeks.
Okay. And would a patient come to you, go to a pediatrician, come to a lactation consultant? Who would they go
That
to
is
with
the
issues?
$1 million question, and I think it's different with every practice. I have such an interest in breastfeeding that when we get calls, I'm happy to call patients or have them come see me in the office for breastfeeding related issues. I don't think that's wrong or right, but other obstetricians just don't have the experience or knowledge that they feel like they can handle those troubleshooting calls, and they might direct someone directly to lactation.
And same goes for pediatricians. There are some pediatricians that have lactation consultants even in their office and things like that. And there are many pediatricians that feel very comfortable with breastfeeding. There are doctors that specialize in breastfeeding.
Yep.
And, there's us. I mean, we have a support group that meets every Tuesday at 2 o'clock down in the Schwartz Auditorium here at the hospital, that we are happy to have anybody who's having issues come see us, or if you just want to come hang out with other moms who have babies and talk about that kind of thing, we're here for that, So, and there's lactation, groups all over the city. There's, pretty much every hospital has one. There are, like Missouri Baptist has got a great outpatient program. There's lots of places you can go. You just need to know where it is.
And you have to find your people, right?
Yes.
Because a lot of this is, you may go to one lactation support group and just feel that you have to be instinctual, but you will find your people, whether you want to be around people who are super sarcastic and or you want to be around people that are really focused and help you focus. I mean, I think there's variability in human beings, shocker. Spoiler alert, we're all different, but you will find your people, and you just may have to try different places.
There's tons of places you can go, and there's La Leche League has got them all over town, and she's right. You'll walk in one and go, ooh, these people are kind of woo, this isn't my thing, I've got to go, see another group, and not every group is like that. Every group is a little bit different, and so you do have to find the people you're comfortable with, and hopefully, you can do that, and knowing where to go is going to help.
And you said we're at Barnes Jewish Hospital is where we are right now, and you were talking about the support group that meets here. How often?
It's weekly on Tuesdays from 2 to 3 in the Schwartz Auditorium, which is on the main floor.
Okay, and we will try and put that information up on in the comment section of this post whenever we get back to the office. So, what is it that you cover in these support groups? Is it how to latch on them, or what?
At that point,
large group.
The hope being by the time they're coming to the support group, they're out of the hospital, they're home, and hopefully they've got, at least a kind of rudimentary understanding of how the breastfeeding is working. So usually people come back and they're having, specific targeted issues. They sometimes have questions about pumping, going back to work. Sometimes they have issues with, this baby still isn't latching and he's 6 weeks old, or, you know, there's a lot of different things. Basically, we'll talk about whatever it is that you want to talk about,
And
whatever
is there-
issues you're having.
I'm sure you have thoughts about tongue tie.
Oh.
Can you talk about tongue tie?
I do.
Careful.
So should we talk about the issues that would prevent a baby from latching
Yes.
well? Okay.
Why don't we talk about the issues that would prevent a baby from latching well? You know, probably the biggest problem that we have is babies that come early. Early babies are not great breastfeeders at first because they feel like they've got a few more weeks before they have to worry about it. And they're not wrong, but they kind of are. They got to figure it out. So those are moms that I would have pumping right away because those babies are not going to be getting your milk to come in the same way. So so that's probably the biggest hurdle that we have with those babies that come a little bit early. If moms and babies are separated, that's very tough. You know, if baby maybe is term but is having some trouble breathing or something for a couple of days and has to go to our special care nursery, that's another thing. Those babies are not going to feed very well. I'm going to have you pumping. And pretty much if there's something going on that I know is going to be a problem, I'm going to get you started pumping. So that's the one caveat to no, we don't pump it at first, is if there is an issue.
And can I throw in one editorial here, because it was such a valuable piece of information to me earlier, was about getting a pump. Because I was ready to order the $200-300 model off of Amazon and have it delivered to my door, whereas they're afforded to women through, and I believe it's through some facet of the Affordable Care Act. Regardless of your political opinions, it's something that you have access to through your insurance company. So
private insurance will cover it. Depending on what it is, well, you just have to talk with your insurance company about how you get it and that kind of thing. But I would recommend to anyone that has insurance to call your insurance company and say, what do I need to do to get a breast pump?
And then with preterm babies, oh, I'm sorry, you were at.
It's been a while since I've had a patient report back that their insurance coverage only covered a single hand pump, but that was happening for a while. It was like, okay, we have to cover pumps, so here's your hand pump, which
there was a loophole. I think
there was a loophole. Yeah, so double
Just
pump,
like your
electric pump is what
double
people
electric
have
pump.
access to.
Yes. And then if you have a preterm baby, that also does that make it easier to get them as well?
There definitely are some times where an insurance company that would have normally provided a regular personal use pump, which is those Medela pumps, you know, those yellow ones you see all over, that if you have a preterm baby, some insurance companies will upgrade that to a hospital grade pump. So it's worth a second phone call to see if there's any changes because your baby came early.
And because I think people are, you're buying so much at the outset to begin with. It feels like it's nice to have one thing that is, you know, it's a medical aid to both mom and baby, and to know that resource is there.
And if you're going back to work or going back to school or going to be away from your baby for any length of time, you need a really nice, you know, pump that's a double electric breast pump, or your supply's going to suffer.
And you need the halter with the two slits in it,
which looks like something off of SNL.
And my favorite are the pictures on the website. There's this lady in a skyrise in New York on the phone with her hand typing, and she's got the breast pump on this thing. I'm like, who is this lady? What is this picture?
Not advisable,
Everyone
but I had a
has
friend
to
call
Google
me
it.
and tell me she was driving and pumping at the same time, and I was like,
Okay, I've
don't
done
do
that.
that.
It's, you know what, you can.
Can you?
You can.
Sometimes.
As long as you're not paying attention to the pump. If you set it all up ahead of time.
Make sure you're buckled.
Sort of. I'm imagining the music you would listen to.
But see, now what I always say though is, that's great if you have an extra $50. If you don't have an extra $50, just get.
You can get them on Etsy for no, they're so cheap.
Just get an old sports bra, cut some slits into it,
Fine.
and you just made your own.
Okay,
I'm
fine.
We're gonna do
extra
crafting
cheap.
next week.
Ooh.
That would be super fun.
That would be
We'll
fun.
Get a bedazzler.
Can I come back?
Sure. That'll be great. So
I know what I'm getting you for your baby gift.
A bedazzler.
A bedazzler. Oh, it's double pump
Oh my gosh.
halter bra.
I'm
Get
gonna
ready.
Hold you to it, and we're gonna show it off on the internet. So
Oh,
it's gonna be super excited.
I can't wait. Can't wait to see that.
So back to the subject at hand.
Yes.
Or breast, whatever we're talking about here. Is it, at what point, if you have a woman who comes in and she has tried everything, so breastfeeding is, sorry, I'm collecting my thoughts here. I'm going to back it up even a little more. What are the benefits of breastfeeding?
There are so many. I have a whole PowerPoint that I could have, but in short, definite benefits that decrease your baby's risk of upper respiratory infections, so otitis media or ear infections, bronchitis, also decreased sinusitis, also decreased risk of lower respiratory problems like pneumonia. I kind of feel like those are great because it's sad to have your baby sick and you get worried and maybe have to go to doctor visits and urgent care or the hospital. But where I get really excited is there is compelling data that your baby as an adult has less likelihood of having asthma, diabetes, obesity, depression. I can't really say I buy into that data, but I want to believe it, so I decided to. But for sure, type 2 diabetes, asthma, and
we've got someone laughing.
I've lost my train of thought. And whatever else I said. So, but you have these lifetime benefits, but also what gets me jazzed, really jazzed, is moms do better. Lower lifetime risk of breast cancer, ovarian cancer, obesity, which has a little bit to do with an accelerated weight loss after your baby's born, but even persists beyond that, just sort of less type 2 diabetes as it relates to metabolic issues and obesity down the road. So, there are people who think we're nuts. There are people who don't want to believe this stuff, but I'm telling you, I have trained as a scientist and as a statistician, and there is benefit to breastfeeding. Are you going to have a baby who doesn't go to Harvard because you don't breastfeed? Of course not. That's bananas.
Not your fault.
This is like apples,
fault.
Oranges, false equivalency. There's benefit to it. So to just say to somebody, look at all these great things from breastfeeding, and they may say, well, no one in my family's ever breastfed, but I think I might want to try because I didn't know that stuff because I thought formula was healthier. How often do we hear that?
Pretty regularly.
Then it's just cool to have a chance to be like, oh, hey, let's talk more about it, and not like, attack people with loads of info, but just sort of gently be like, let's make you have your birth plan. What's your breastfeeding plan? Maybe it's 6 weeks, right? Because you have to go back to work. You have nowhere, maybe you work at I had a patient who worked at Subway. The only place she could have pumped at work is her manager's office. And he was not super supportive really of her having gotten pregnant in the first place. She did not feel empowered at all to pump in his office, to ask him to. Her breastfeeding plan was 6 weeks. How great is that?
Yeah.
And we did it. She did it. I didn't do it. She did it. But
and I think that brings up an important point. So say you've gone for 6 weeks or you've gone for 2 weeks and it's not working well. Baby is not gaining weight. You've gone to the lactation consultant. You've gone to your pediatrician. You've gone to your OB. You've tried everything and it just isn't working. Is that A, possible? And B, what do you do?
It is possible. It's rare,
Uh-huh.
but it happens. There are people who are true, I hate to say lactation failures because it makes me feel really bad. Because if you're not a failure, it just is.
It's lactation.
Yeah. It's just, it happens sometimes. And, some women absolutely just don't have the breast tissue that they need. Some women have, certain medical conditions that make making milk very difficult.
Postpartum hemorrhage.
Like
you can control that.
Yeah.
Sometimes it happens.
Retained placentas, my gosh, your milk just doesn't come in if you got placenta still in there. It just doesn't. And, I've had moms tell me.
Look at Abby's face. Hold on.
Keep going.
There are things, whether it's your lifetime medical history or in labor and delivery, certain complications can make your milk just not. You just don't transit. You still have colostrum. You just don't transition to making milk.
And so, if it's not working, is it the end of the world if you give the kid formula?
No. It's never the end of the world to give the kid formula. The reason formula exists is because there are some babies that need it. And there are some women that either cannot or choose not to provide breast milk for their babies. And that doesn't mean that anything is wrong with those women or that there's
listening,
any
Facebook and listening. This is important.
It's not even just about can you, but do you want to? I mean, you have a choice. And because it's not my job as a lactation consultant, and as much as I want every child to get 5 years worth of breast milk, that's my goal. That's not your goal. That's okay. Just my last one. We're not going to talk about her. She has issues. She's 10 now. She's been weaned for a while.
She's 23.
She's 23. She's been weaned for 3 months.
She's still struggling, but if Oprah were still around.
What is your goal?
It's about your goal. It's about what your goal is. It's about what works in your family. It's about what works in your life situation. And, you know, my goal as a lactation consultant, Camaryn's goal as doctor, is to support you to get where your goals.
So what if Abby isn't making enough milk and she calls you and says, I'm only getting 10 ounces a day? What do you do?
10 ounces a day? Is she exclusively pumping? Okay, I'm sorry. I'm getting
Tricks of the trade.
So,
to pump up
so there's
volume.
lots of things that you can do. We can, you know, put the baby to breast more frequently. We can pump more frequently. We can make sure that the pump is fitting you correctly. That's a big one. A lot of times people have trouble with pumping.
Oh, those cone things. We saw those.
The cone things, yeah, they come in different sizes.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't know they come in different sizes. I have a very good friend who was pumping with a size 24, that's 24 millimeters, and she needed a size 36.
Sorry.
She was shoving 12 extra millimeters of nipple into and of course it hurt for a year.
Anytime you use the word shove and nipple in the same sentence,
No,
you're
it's
bound
not
to
good.
end
It's just getting good.
It's not good.
Buckle up.
Yeah.
It's just getting good.
So I would want to size
Too late to
you.
cross my legs.
I would want to size
It's just
you.
like getting fit for running shoes.
It
kids.
is just like that. I'd want to size you up. I'd want to make sure that that looked good and everything looked fine there. I would want to check what your history was. I would want to find out what your labor and delivery looked like, what sort of issues you might have in your own personal health that might be affecting it. There are things that you can try, foods you can try to eat. There's herbs and things you can try. It's kind of sketchy as to whether or not those things really do work. It might just
But
be,
hey, if it works for you,
it certainly isn't going to hurt, so I'm never going to tell somebody to not do it. If it works for them, that's awesome. If it doesn't work for them, well, we'll try something else. But the absolute bottom line is more stimulation to the breasts.
I think it's really interesting too. We were talking, I mean, back months ago, we were talking about birth plans and how the danger in having everything detailed out as to what you're definitely going to do is that it is your first opportunity to view yourself as a failure as a parent. And there are so many down the road that it really is between that and if things aren't working out with breastfeeding, it's just awfully early to feel like a failure. And
Absolutely.
perfectly healthy children have been raised
Yeah.
on formula.
And I absolutely, the last thing I ever want is for a mom to feel like a failure because something didn't work out the way that they wanted it to. The most important thing is that these children grow up loved and cared for. It doesn't matter how you love and care for them. It's just that it's happening. And if that, you know, means that we tried breastfeeding and it didn't work and you switch to formula after a certain amount of time because it's affecting your brain and now you have postpartum depression and you know you can't enjoy your baby because you're focused so much on this, then maybe we just need to, you know, cut bait at this point and say let's do something else. And sometimes that means we just do a little bit of formula and you just don't worry about it and you also breastfeed. Sometimes it means we give it up completely. And that doesn't mean that you've done anything wrong. It just means that that's the way it worked this time for you. Next time it might work differently.
But Michelle, can't I just buy breast milk off of Craigslist?
Oh, this is a really good topic.
Please don't buy breast milk off of Craigslist.
Why not? Breast is best.
But you don't know where it came from. It might not even be breast milk. You don't know what it is.
Is such an amazing point that I've never even considered bringing up.
Oh yeah.
And I think it's important also to note what lives in that breast milk. I mean, you don't know where it came from if it's someone who is not healthy.
There are milk banks.
Yes, there are milk banks, and those people are all tested, and they pasteurize that milk, and it is safe. It is a little bit difficult to get that milk, you know, for just the average person.
It's mostly for preemies.
It's mostly for preemie babies in the
NICUs.
hospital, that kind of thing. But it does exist. And if, you know, and I'm not against, and this might not be a popular opinion, I'm not against milk sharing if you're getting it from someone that you trust and that you know, believe to be safe.
Personal choice.
That's
including
exactly.
Craigslist. But I just want to put a caution out there. So there was a study.
It's just Craigslist, though.
I'm like, yeah, a lot of cool stuff going on there. But I went to the Academy of Breastfeeding Medicine conference probably now 4 years ago, and a researcher actually went on Craigslist with research money and bought 50 samples of breast milk. 100% of them grew out E. coli.
Awesome.
So people shipping their breast milk, she logged how the milk was shipped. Some people put it like in a proper FedEx container with dry ice. Some people just put it in like a mailing envelope, in like double ziplocked. But 100%, if I remember, and it was a while ago, but it was, I believe it was 100% cultured out E. coli. So I would just say to be careful.
Yeah. Yeah, you know what? There is a point at which formula is just going to be the healthier option, and that might be it if it's been double ziplocked.
If you're down to double ziplock mailing envelope Craigslist milk, I think formula's good. I broke her, finally. I broke her.
Sorry.
Okay.
All right.
Abby, are you okay?
I am.
I wanted this to like inform and inspire, and I think
I am
you
inspired.
look a little like
that is.
Are you doing okay?
Sheer
Are you
inspiration
okay?
right now. No, I'm doing just fine.
Are any of those are any of our people asking questions?
Do we have any questions coming in?
Don't.
Okay, that's okay.
You know, one thing I think a lot of moms wonder about is what are the different kinds of hurts, like the latch.
Ooh, good
it
question.
latches hurt, and then what is more than a latching hurt? It's the mastitis. Is that right?
Oh yeah, that's
So
on
maybe-
the list.
Yeah, because I think that
Mastitis.
happens to a lot.
Well,
of
and
people.
actually, honestly, Laura, who you cannot see, she's the wizard behind the curtain here, is a mom to 3, and which another question I had was, can you nurse multiples? Spoiler alert, I know the answer because she nursed twins.
Okay.
So, we'll start with the different kinds of hurt.
So different kinds of hurt. I actually do expect most moms to have at least a little bit of tenderness, just because the chances of you getting it right from the very first latch are not particularly high. And to say that, oh, if it hurts at all, that means you're doing something wrong, is putting way too much pressure on moms. I think you need to be able to figure it out and learn. And so what I consider to be normal hurt is the baby latches on, it makes your toes curl for a few seconds, and then you go, oh no, it's okay, I can handle that. That to me is telling me that there's some damage done to that nipple from a previous feeding, and we gotta work through that. That can last up to 2 weeks, but by 2 weeks it should be gone completely. If it hurts the whole time the baby is feeding, or if you're noticing blisters on your breast or cracking or any
cracks and
bleeding,
are the things that I've heard that are terrifying.
well, when I start seeing that, that's when I start talking about tongue ties. That's when I start looking, and I'm not going to check every baby for a tongue tie because there's
You dodged that one.
oh
I
yeah,
did dodge that one.
20 minutes ago.
I know, I did, I dodged it.
All right.
And what is a tongue tie?
A tongue tie is, so underneath your tongue, there's a little frenulum, there's a little piece of skin that holds it down. And some babies have, that frenulum comes all the way to the tip of the nipple. Some of them don't come up as far, but it holds the tongue down too much. A tongue tie is a problem that's almost exclusively a breastfeeding problem. Bottle-fed babies tend to not have issues with it because you're just shoving a whole, bottle nipple in there, they can manage it. But with breastfed babies, they have to work at it. They actually have to pull that nipple into their mouth. And if the tongue's not working properly to get under and pull it in, it's not going to get a nice deep touch.
Yeah.
Here, we'll do this under and pull it in. How's
Yes.
that? So if they have that tongue inability to move, we sometimes can do a little clip on that, which sounds way worse than it is.
Pediatricians
It
will
takes
do
1
it.
second.
Elizabeth just said that they had her child's clipped, and it made a huge difference.
It often does. If it's a problem, it makes a huge difference. I think we're kind of in a weird situation right now where for a long time people just didn't believe it was a thing, and now we've kind of swung the pendulum to now it's always a problem, and I think it's actually kind of somewhere in the middle. I think, I don't, like I said,
as with most things, the truth lies in the middle,
Exactly.
But yeah.
Exactly. So I think when it needs to be addressed, it should be addressed immediately. And one of the lovely things about Barnes Jewish Hospital is that the majority of our pediatricians in-house are trained to do that. So they can do it before they even leave. It can be addressed before baby even goes home. So, that will hopefully save weeks and weeks of pain and
Cracks and bleeding.
Cracks
Again,
and bleeding.
you throw those words in the same sentence with nipple and it's just going to hurt.
And guess when else your breast might hurt? If it has an infection like mastitis.
Yes. So we'll defer to you on that one.
Milk that just stays in a duct for too long can start to be colonized by the bacteria that live on your normal skin. So we are covered, spoiler alert, we're just gross. We're covered in bacteria, but a lot of the bacteria on us and inside of our GI tract and things keeps us healthy. But if milk stays in a duct too long, the bacteria at the opening of the nipple starts to go into that duct and grow, and then you can get an infection deep in the breast, and that's mastitis. So you'll have fevers, you'll have pain, you'll see like a red-shaped wedge of skin on your breast. You will, it will hurt not only when you're nursing, but it just hurts all the time. So fevers, redness of the breast, call your doctor because you'll need antibiotics. And in some cases, people need to actually go in to be evaluated because if the antibiotics doesn't clear it up pretty fast, there's a chance there's actually an abscess deeper in the breast tissue, so you may need a breast ultrasound. But any erythema or redness of the breast, it could just be a clogged duct without any infection in there, but someone needs to look at your breast.
I generally feel like if it clears up pretty quickly and you aren't, I mean, it's the fever.
Mm-hmm.
Once that fever happens, call your OBGYN.
And is there a way to avoid it, or does it just happen?
Keep your breasts empty.
Yeah, you just don't want milk sitting in there. So if your baby's really nursing well on the right but just doesn't nurse well on the left, take the extra time to either hand express or pump on the left, because if your baby's not drawing the milk out, you're at risk of mastitis.
Okay.
And then the other pain that I do like to kind of talk about is yeast pain, which no one likes to hear about, but that is also a nipple type pain. And generally when we see that, it happens after that 2 weeks when, feeding felt fine for a while and then all of a sudden it hurts again. And then you might notice some redness around that nipple. You might notice some, whiteness in the baby's mouth.
Like a needle is stabbing you through your entire breast.
You'd notice that.
Violently stabbing.
You notice it.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel great.
Mm-hmm. Okay. It sounds like this is a personal issue for this has history.
Oh, I was there.
Oh.
It's unpleasant.
And it's treatable. Mom and baby both need to be treated for the yeast because you will give it back and forth.
That's okay. I was going to say I do remember one of my friends talking about some. I couldn't remember if it was an infection or what. That it was back and forth for a while.
It's a yeast type infection, which is it's just something that likes to grow in moist places.
And babies can get thrush and give mom a yeast mastitis. Moms can get yeast mastitis and give their babies thrush. You can have one or the other. But while you're taking medicine for yeast or for bacterial mastitis, continue to feed your baby.
Yes.
There's no need to take breaks from pumping or nursing.
When you're on antibiotics, you said?
Mm-hmm.
Which brings me to my next question. There are all of these myths out there about foods you can and cannot eat while breastfeeding. Onions, I think, was one that I've heard from someone. Are there any that are truly off limits? Can you eat spicy foods? And what have you? Can you drink alcohol?
Yes.
And you don't have to pump and dump?
You do not have to pump and dump.
Tell us more.
Unless if you feel like you've drank so much that you would not want to drive a car, I don't want you to feed
You don't want to drive your baby. Okay.
You got it.
Fascinating.
So you don't need to buy a special strip to test it. If you're like, you know what, I'm not safe behind a wheel, you're not safe to feed that baby either.
Okay.
You're probably not safe to care for that baby.
This may be the most valuable portion of the entire Baby series.
It might be.
Okay, this is the most ridiculous thing ever. Is I feel like I talk about alcohol more than I talk about breasts. Because this is such a common question.
It's such a common question because I know that so many people have said you have to pump and dump and you can't drink even so much as a glass of wine.
So if you have a babysitter, baby's at grandma's for the whole night, you and the husband go out and have the best time you can manage.
Which is until 9 o'clock and 2 glasses of wine and then I'm passed out on the
Well, 2 glasses of wine, you probably can put the baby to breast, no problem. But if you're really pretty drunk, if you felt uncomfortable and needed to pump during that time, I wouldn't keep that.
Okay.
But by the next morning, even if you feel cruddy, that's just dehydration. You can put the baby to breast by the next day. You don't have to pump and dump for 24 hours. That's wasting a lot of really good milk. Don't do that.
And what if you need your appendix out while you're breastfeeding? Do not pump and dump after general anesthesia.
God,
There's no need for it. The anesthesiology, is it the Academy of Anesthesiology, the AAS or something? Sorry, anesthesiologists. Anyway, position statement, no pumping and dumping after general
No.
anesthesia.
There's
So we
very
still tell
few.
people that here at Barnes. I try my best, but it's a thing.
Luckily, I have a lot of doctors who are calling me and asking me now.
Yay.
So I think it's
Good.
getting better. It's getting better.
It just puts an unnecessary barrier, unnecessary non-scientific barrier between
and
moms continuing to
same
feed
goes
babies.
for, you know, the vast majority of medical testing that needs to be done. Even if you have, you know, different types of dye that need to be done during a test, the majority of those are safe. You know, most, I think, OBGYNs are really good about being able to tell you what medications are safe and what are not. I tend to see specialists and, like, you know, regular
People get
family
nervous.
people, sometimes you'll get weird information. So I always recommend that people either talk to their OBGYN or call me or talk to their pharmacist, people who are going to get their information from a reliable source.
And it goes without saying, don't do drugs. But illicit drugs do transfer to the baby through breast milk, correct? Don't do drugs. I mean, I
Please
feel
don't
like
do
it's important.
drugs.
That's my medical advice.
Are we talking about illicit drugs?
I only know this because there was a story in the news this last week about a child who had overdosed on certain medications, and the question was, did he get it from breast milk or did he accidentally ingest somewhere in the home? And so can a child ingest through breast milk?
Yeah, so when we're talking about, illicit drugs, no, I don't
We're
recommend
probably getting
that.
a little too technical here.
We
for the
don't
audience we're
recommend-
dealing with. We don't recommend
Injected, inhaled, or snorted drugs that you buy on the street
But if you have a C-section
or Craigslist.
and you're going to get some pain
Good
medicine,
one. Yeah.
we're going to give you pain medicine that's safe.
Okay.
So, you know, and even if you have a vaginal delivery and like I don't want to say it, but a bad tear or something that requires you to need something stronger, something stronger than
hurt your
ibuprofen,
baby.
which generally ibuprofen is all you need, you know, after a regular vaginal delivery. But if you need something stronger, we have it, and we're not going to keep it from you because you're breastfeeding. It is safe to take those medications as prescribed while breastfeeding. Now, that being said, don't double and triple up because it feels nice. That's not okay. You know,
So go with the dosage recommended by your physician.
yes. Because there are a lot of people out there who do take prescribed medication not the way that it's supposed to be taken. So all of this advice doesn't go for that, you know, and anybody who's taking medications not the way they should be taken, then I'm going to say, well, no, we can't really do that and breastfeed.
But back to foods,
But back to foods,
drinks, and prescribed
Cabbage.
medication.
Everyone says you can't eat cabbage while you're nursing.
it's ridiculous.
Gives
Where does
babies
that come
gas.
from?
I have no idea.
How do babies get gas that way? But
Are there foods that, do you ever try elimination diets with, with
the only
patients?
time I ever will do that is if I have a baby that is having long-lasting issues with like colic or, you know, a lot of spitting up or, you know, just seems really uncomfortable all the time, like a refluxy type issue, then I would actually say, you know what, maybe there's something going on with your specific baby something you're eating that baby doesn't like. The first thing I'm going to tell you to stop doing is drinking milk or doing dairy for a week. So no dairy for a week, and the majority of babies that do have food issues, it's dairy, because I don't know, those dairy molecules I guess are just too similar, and it's just attracted and it gets in there, and they're larger. You know, cow dairy molecules are larger than human dairy molecules, so they do sometimes cause some issues. But it doesn't happen enough for me to tell everyone not to drink milk. It doesn't make any sense. For the few tiny people that's going to cause problems for, I'm not going to tell everyone not to do it. But yeah, that's the thing I'm going to tell you to stop first. And, you know, a few months down the road, you probably can start it back up again, because by then, baby's, you know, got a better gut system going on.
Gotcha. All right, any parting words of wisdom that you care to share?
I don't know. Just do it, I guess. I don't.
That slogan's been taken.
I think
Know where your help is. You know, just know where your
that
help
was going to
is.
be my thing. Is have your support person. If it's your spouse, if it's a parent, if it's a sister, somebody. I feel like if you have them going into this as your go-to person, maybe it'll be Michelle. But you need a person, and that isn't always going to be your spouse, and that's okay. You need a person to really be willing to get that 1 a.m. phone call or to just coach you through it or to just tell you you're awesome even if you decide you want to stop. But hopefully you'll consider your OBGYN one of those people, because everyone in our office takes calls about this all the time, and we know a lot, and we also know how to find Michelle and the other lactation consultants.
Yeah, and if you call the lactation consultant office, the emergency contact number is my cell phone. So
perfect.
So you can call me in an emergency too.
And one of the more basic things that I think is good to close on is, how long do you breastfeed?
As long as it works for mom and baby.
It's exclusive. It's recommended exclusive.
The recommendation is exclusive for 6 months with additional foods up to a year, and then past a year for as long as it works for mom and baby.
And last question, I swear, and I know the answer to this because it happened to a friend of mine.
I'm scared.
Does breastfeeding mean you will not get pregnant?
Interesting. So, I can't believe we almost didn't talk about this.
Can't
it's
believe
like my
I
jam. It's my personal, professional jam.
How did we miss it?
Okay. So, if you are breastfeeding at least every 4 hours, including overnight,
Especially overnight.
and for 6 months you don't have a period, you are over 98% protected from an unplanned pregnancy.
Okay.
That's a lot of ifs.
Mm-hmm.
So if at 3 months you are stoked because your baby's sleeping 6 hours at night, I'm super stoked for you, but you may ovulate at any moment, right? So we
You're gonna be
recommend.
super stoked when you give them
Yeah.
the news that they're expecting
So-
another baby.
So I think we recommend that nobody have intercourse for 6 weeks after their baby's born. That's for a number of reasons, but one of them is you can get pregnant if you are irregularly nursing. And I think those are some of the toughest patient interactions I have in my career, is when I tell someone at their postpartum visit they're pregnant again.
Yeah. That's tough.
That's tough. And I'm just going to leave it there because it's tough. So no sex for 6 weeks has a bit to do with fertility, because it's actually not very healthy for your system to start a new pregnancy when you've just healed from a prior pregnancy. And also a bit to do with, anyway, I already said my piece. So don't do it, literally.
It's the
and
opposite of what you just
And then
said.
from 6 weeks on, if you're nursing every 4 hours, including overnight or more, then if you don't have a period, you're good. But most people, I feel, elect to start some sort of birth control at 6 weeks. And if you're nursing, your doctor will know that it's best not to put you on any birth control with estrogen, because that can drop your milk supply, allegedly, although with everything being controversial, I think there's lately some controversy about that. Forget it. Doesn't matter. Why not use an IUD or a progesterone-only pill
This
or
was
a
completely
shot?
unplanned. That was just a happenstance that she had her blood there.
Or there's lots of
I'm
things that you can
anyway.
do for birth control that are safe in breastfeeding. And I think there's even, I think at 6 weeks this is uncontroversial, correct? There's a little bit of talk about whether you should start a hormonal birth control at the time you leave the hospital, and will that affect your milk supply? I'd rather not get into that here and now, but if anyone wants to email me, I have many things to say and thoughts about that. But at your 6 week visit, a lot is available to you.
Oh, yeah.
And
By 6 weeks, your supply is established, and anything
You're
you
good.
add at that
Yeah.
point, it shouldn't be an issue.
Yeah.
And we did not discuss this beforehand, so there's a very good question. I'll have to delete this entire episode if her answer is no. Does your practice accept new patients?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Because I've had several people come up to me just personally asking for information about contacting your practice. So I think what we're going to do is go ahead and put contact information in the comment section of this, along with breastfeeding support group information, so that people have the opportunity, if they're interested in learning more about your practice or about the groups that exist here to help breastfeeding moms or what have you, that they have those resources available to them. In the meantime,
You didn't pull the string.
we didn't talk about it. Yeah, and what is this illustrating?
So
See, this can be the
if your
picture
nipple looks like this, then we need to talk, because it's going to be a little more tough for you. That's a flatter nipple. But a flat nipple does not mean you can't breastfeed. You can breastfeed very successfully with flat nipples.
But you may need more coaching.
But you might need my help.
Yeah.
And that's why you're here, making the big bucks.
And on that
And on that note, ladies, thank you so much for joining us. It's been great.
And thank you, Abby, for being such a wonderful coordinator and host. I'm just going to start to be a little, because at any minute you could have your baby.
That occurred to me about a
Any
week ago,
episode
and
could be
it's
the last
terrifying.
episode.
My water could break right here, people.
Good.
Or
Yeah,
which
we'll just
that
deliver
only
a
happens
baby.
in
It's no big
10%
deal.
of patients. So, the things
She
I
learned
learned.
things.
I have my own special MD certificate. It's like the kid gets the fake tool belt. They give me a fake certificate. But and the baby's belly. I've taken so many souvenirs from this series.
I can't let you have the boob.
We are. That's what you think now. Well, we are back next week, assuming that I am back next week.
What are you doing?
Postpartum depression.
Good one.
Oh,
Yeah.
good.
So
good.
very important. The next 2 weeks. So next week we are talking about postpartum, the postpartum brain, and then the
Who's
week after
doing it?
that,
Plug for
Cynthia
them.
Rogers.
Awesome.
She's amazing.
Perfect.
Yes,
She's amazing.
We're very excited. And then the week after that, we have Shelby Dickinson back on
Mhm.
talking about all the fun things that you can expect from a postpartum body.
Oh,
I know. Talk about things I'm afraid of. And you know what? If I have the baby before then, well, then it'll just wait a couple of months until I get back. And then we'll have some firsthand experience to rely on. So thank you guys so much. And the week after that, we'll see if we're back. It's kind of touch and go at that point. But in the meantime, thank you. And thank you for joining us. Enjoy this once in, it feels like a month, decent day in St. Louis. And we'll be back next week at 1. Have a good weekend.
bye.